Hello and welcome to another episode of Talking Politics here at The Hindu with me, Nistula Hebbar, where we unpack the news making the headlines in domestic politics this week. Amid the hurly-burly of campaigns ratcheting up in poll-going states in the next round of assembly elections due early next year, we have had quiet moves with regard to Rajasthan and the Congress's problems there, heading to a somewhat lasting resolution with former PCC chief Sachin Pilot being assured that his loyalists who had walked out of the government when he raised the banner of rebellion last year would be accommodated back in the Council of Ministers in Rajasthan. What are the contours of this resolution, and can we expect somewhat lasting peace in Rajasthan Congress? That will be the subject of this week's Talking Politics. Rajasthan Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot had a bit of a political breather given to him this month when results for the two by-polls for assembly seats in Rajasthan went the Congress's way. The results were declared on November 2nd. Well, the Congress, of course, did not waste any time and said that, okay, now this has happened. We need to sort out what is happening in Rajasthan. There's been a long tug of war that has taken place between Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot and former PCC chief, former Deputy Chief Minister Sachin Pilot. It was said that when Sachin Pilot raised the banner of revolt last year and 9 ministers resigned in the wake of that revolt and followed him out, there were certain options before him. One was to join the BJP, the other was to float his own regional outfit. He was persuaded at that point of time not to go ahead with either of these options and to wait and to bide his time in the Congress, where a dignified resolution to his demands and his requests for prominence and for importance within the chief ministerial setup would be honored. Now, last particular week, the Congress High Command decided that procrastination was not helping anybody out. The Congress has already lost a couple of the young lot that it had groomed during the UPA years, Jitin Prasada being one example, and Union Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia. So there was always a threat that Sachin Pilot, who was also one of the lot who had been groomed at that time, would be lost to the Congress. So finally, the Congress High Command decided to move forward in this regard. Mr. Pilot was called to Delhi for a series of meetings with the High Command, as was Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot. And while Mr. Gehlot kept his cards close to his chest, Mr. Pilot did come out from his meetings with Congress Interim President Sonia Gandhi and said that his only request was that people who had actually worked for the party, who were loyal to the party, who had given their all, who had struggled for the party when it was out of power under the regime of Vasundhara Raje and the BJP in the past, should be accommodated, should be given importance in the governance structure of the state. Translation of that means that his people who had walked out with him when he had raised the banner of revolt, should be accommodated. He too should be given a dignified sort of adjustment within the party structure following the talks. What has been decided? Well, clearly, there's going to be a reshuffle in the Rajasthan Council of Ministers. Now, according to the Constitution of India, 15% of the strength of the assembly is the number that you get for the number of seats or berths in the Council of Ministers of that particular state. So Rajasthan Assembly has around 200 seats. 15% of that would be 30. And at this point of time, there are 9 vacancies of those ministers who had walked out with Sachin Pilot. Plus, during the compromise formula meetings, it was decided that there's going to be only one man, one post. So therefore, if anybody is a minister and occupies a party position or any other kind of position, should vacate one of those positions. And the 3 ministers who do have multiple responsibilities include the current PCC chief, Govind Dotasra, the AICC in charge of Punjab, Harish Chaudhary, and AICC in charge of Gujarat, Raghu Sharma. Now, all 3 of these are expected to vacate their ministerial berths. We will see how that goes. And rather than give up on their party responsibilities, so that makes the number of berths which are available for accommodation of such loyalists to 12. Apart from that, Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot is also likely to drop 3 or 4 ministers on issues of performance, etc. These he could, of course, choose from among his own loyalists, and therefore a large chunk of ministers, half, that is 15 of them, 15 or 16 ministers, are likely to be reshuffled. It's going to be a major reshuffle of the Rajasthan Council of Ministers. Will this buy peace in Rajasthan? Well, my sources tell me that once this compromise formula was hammered out, interim president for the Congress, Sonia Gandhi, did tell both the leaders that she wanted peace now in the Rajasthan unit. The Congress has been, as you know, plagued by internal fights in Punjab, which has seen the exit of their former Chief Minister Amrinder Singh from the party itself. He's now going to be launching a regional outfit. That can't be good news for the party, which is going into polls there and hopes to defend its majority next year, early next year. So Rajasthan, it was being hoped, would stick to this formula, the Rajasthan Congress, and there'll be some peace that would prevail between what has been one of the most fractious sort of fights within a state unit of the Congress party. Will the peace hold? Now, that is something that we need to see. The point to see this week in the immediate aftermath of this compromise formula is who gets accommodated and whether that accommodation will lead to some amount of cooperation in the Rajasthan government. For Sachin Pilot himself, he has been told that he will have to stick to Delhi. Now, this is a concession to Mr. Ashok Gehlot. He will be made, Mr. Pilot will be made AICC General Secretary. It's not clear which state he will be given responsibility for. He himself hasn't asked for any responsibility in terms of a state unit because he wants to concentrate on Rajasthan politics. So, the Congress High Command has acceded to Mr. Gehlot's request that Mr. Pilot make an exit from the party's organization and in Rajasthan and be more Delhi-based, in return for which there will be a far greater accommodation of Mr. Pilot's loyalists. Political compromises are seldom long-lived because ambitions always overwhelm them. Elections in Rajasthan are due in 2023. Will it hold till then? That is certainly to be seen. We, on the other hand, have only this much for you this week. Thank you very much for watching.